Hey guys, welcome back again. Dave's Dimension. Welcome back again for another video. Welcome back again to another edition of Dimension Prince, if you will. Uh, that's you guys know the home for tech, prints, and talk. Guys, I got kind of a frustration going on. Now, I love Bamboo Labs. Okay, my first printer was actually a Creatality Ender 3 Max, which was the bane of my existence. It was the bane of my existence for one reason. Well, a couple of reasons. One, it was an open air printer, and where I live, open air is not a good idea. I mean, I live in Buffalo, New York area. The cold temperatures we get through the wintertime come through the windshield or window, even when it's sealed. Um, Humidity, it's just terrible for balance. So having an enclosed printer in my area is what makes the most sense, at least for me, anyways. So here's the thing. That thing was bane of my existence until about a year and a half ago to 2 years ago. Thanks to one of my wife's coworkers, he talked her into talking me into the P1, the P1S. However, I didn't go for the P1S. I went with the P1P and eventually got the conversion kit. Should have started off with the P1S. Finally got the conversion kit and upgraded it to the P1S. And let me tell you, it was a whole new world of possibilities. Everything was just possible. The probabilities and possibilities were endless. However, eventually I did come across space limitations. But the what prompted this video is this: micro SD. Okay, with a company such as Bambu Labs that makes such amazing printers, they run off of micro SD. If you don't have a micro SD card in your printer, it's not going to function, which is mind-boggling. It makes no sense, kids. It really doesn't. The P1, the P1P, and the P1S. So basically, the P series and the X series are reliant on having a micro SD card inside, not just for the purpose of time lapse, but without it, it's not going to function. Okay? So, long story short, I've been printing nonstop lately. Uh, and what I did was this past weekend, me and Mrs. Dimension, we were doing an event at a Comic Con in Hamilton, Ontario. So I made sure cut all the power to the computer, to the printer. Everything was shut down just because we were supposed to be getting some storms in the area. I didn't want any power surges causing any kind of freakiness. Freaky dicky. So I made sure there's no power going to anything. We come back from the con last night, and I had a special project. In fact, that's printing right now. So what had happened was, officer, what had happened was this. It said, please insert micro SD card. I'm like, insert one? I already have one in there. What the hell's going on? So what happens is this. I pull out the micro SD card. I put it in like my little card reader that I have right here, and just your standard card reader. I tried putting it in just through the micro SD slot. I even had my adapter. I tried putting it in there. The computer read it perfectly. No problems whatsoever. It even reformatted it without showing any errors. Okay? I pop it back into the printer. It actually tells me that my micro SD card is damaged. It actually says that. So I'm like, okay, Jesus. Well, I have some micro SD cards for my GoPro. So I'm like, okay, I will take one of the 128s and I will try to reformat it. However, here's the problem, kids. Once you go above 32 gigs on a micro SD card, current Windows operating system will not let you format that as FAT32. FAT32, it won't let you. It only does XFAT, so XFAT. Um, it That's all it will let you do. But the Bamboo printers will not read that. It doesn't read it, kids. So guess what? I was stuck. So after several hours of researching, hitting the interwebs, hitting the Facebook groups, and finally, a couple of people responded. oh, you need to try a third party program like Rufus or something else. So I had to go searching for a third party program called Rufus, which wasn't on the most secure websites. On top of that, not the greatest thing. So then I finally downloaded it and I was able to format one of my 128 micro SD cards and pop it into the P1S, thus restoring it to full working order. The fact that Bambu makes such amazing printers that pretty much almost think for themselves half the time, they work so seamlessly. And a lot of people, jokingly call Bambu the Apple of the 3D printing world. And I hate to agree with them now because I'll be honest, I was a complete fanboy of Bambu Labs. However, however, um, this definitely is. It makes me think that hell, yes, they are the Apple of the 3D printing world. Uh, there's an ecosystem, Maker World, which trust me, I love Maker World. I love that friggin' that platform, and I'm always boosting people with all their amazing uh, files and designs that they come up with. But think about this. What was it? The iPhone 16 was the first one to feature USB or USB Type C charging. They finally drifted away from Lightning adapter. But it took them 16 no, was it? The first 15 iterations of the iPhone had to be US or had to be Lightning lightning cords, which frustrated all of us out there because you had to buy the special cords so that it worked properly. So they finally jumped to, you know, USB Type C. And that's kind of the thing here. I mean, why would you have your P1P, your P1S, and I imagine probably the A series as well? Why would you have the A, P, and X series all running micro SD? Why would you do that to all those printers? Okay. Why not take something like a little thumb drive and actually install it within the frame of the printer and just have it connect? And that's your internal storage. Why have to rely on an exterior micro SD card to go into an exterior slot? Dust, dirt, particles, anything else can get in there. Okay, have something with inside the frame of the printer. I mean, hell, even going take a look at the. We're going to click on P1P. Okay, look at this. We have this solid wall here, right? You could hide you can hide it in there. Hell, you could even put it within the frame here so that it plugs directly in because right above here, right above this display, behind that display, that's where the port is, the slot for the micro SD. So you could have something here or even move it down here and have a wire going up because hell, right behind this main panel here, there's a USB port meant for power or like if you want to add LED lights and such. So they do have some expandability on here, but they could have easily done something like that that can hide with inside. It's out of sight, out of mind. And I mean, let's be honest, a thumb drive is going to last a lot longer than a micro SD card would. Plain and simple. And plus, I mean, something like this, you can get something like this that's 128 gigabytes or even a 1 terabyte in something like this size. I mean, you can get some pretty big, you know, storage thumb drives and just, a little Velcro or a little magnet. Oh, probably not a magnet because of data. But a little Velcro piece, a little Velcro fastener or something to hold it in place and to have the wire going in. I mean, I would think that would be so simple and easy, but no, they have the micro SD. And honestly, for someone like myself, I have never taken the micro SD card out, put it in my card reader to transfer files because it transfers files wirelessly. So that's how I've always done it. But without that working micro SD card, that was the only storage that the P series has. And I believe the same for the X series as well, which is just mind boggling. And I used to sit here and I used to recommend to everybody and their grandmother, be like, listen, if you want to get a printer, get the P1S. It is such an amazing printer. The auto leveling, uh, the ease of use when it comes to Bambu Studio. I mean, there's so much in there. I could sit here and sit for an hour and go over all the pluses about the P1S. But that minus, I can't get that minus out of my head. I really can't. And I know that sounds scary, right? It makes me question, am I still a fanboy of Bambu? Listen, I'm running my Bambu right now. Is it my only printer right now? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. However, um, it's done a lot of amazing work. It allowed me, it enabled me to print a full one-to-one scale proton pack. Not just that, but a Back to the Future themed one that is silver. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. I love it. It's fully. I built that. I wore that at a fan expo, which is a convention that you have thousands, maybe even tw- tens of thousands of people there. It was just massive. The one in Toronto, I rocked it out, and that is a product of the P1S. Okay, I did get creative because of the limited space, but we made a full one-to-one scale 3D printed proton pack, and it got bumped around, got knocked around. Still in one piece. I love it. However, the the micro SD card issue, I think it's a big vulnerability. I mean, think about this. Imagine, if you will. I mean, think about this. You can't have a micro SD card because, like I said, I had the format. I had to use Rufus and format one of my 128 gigabyte micro SD cards so that it ran on the FAT32 format. Now, anything above a 32 gig on a micro SD, it will not allow you to do that on Windows. I had to download a special program called Rufus in order to do that. In order to get my printer functional. Uh, that just it seems like too much of an analog esque type vulnerability. Maybe I'm wrong. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts, guys and gals out there. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that that is too much of a vulnerability? I mean, the fact that they carried it from the A series to the P series to the X series, those are three different generations, if you will. They carried that on for three full blown generations. And I think it's something that they easily could have changed. You know, they could have even included an option like, hey, we're going to include a secondary USB port that is just dedicated for storage if you want to use a micro SD instead of, or if you want to use a USB thumb drive instead of a micro SD. So yeah, you can still have your functionality, and you can have a larger storage size. They could have introduced something like that, something very simple that's plug and play, but they never did. They were just like, hey, we're going to keep things as is in the A generation, the P generation, and the X generation. And to me, that's it's just it's terrible. It's something that I have in my head thinking like, why would you do that? As common, as simple, and I mean, hell, thumb drives have been around for years, guys, years upon years upon years upon years. Uh, it just seems like relying on micro SD cards. I mean, I get that the older open platform or the older open air platform printers relied on that. But hey, just because you relied on something for, God knows how long, doesn't mean you have to stick with that. I thought Bamboo was about innovation, exploring your possibilities, expanding upon those horizons that you thought you reached, and going further and higher than ever before. That's really how I felt about Bamboo. I felt Bamboo anybody made it so that anyone and their grandmother could 3D print and 3D print amazing things. And I it's got me questioning it. Now, this hit me so hard that I started digging and taking a look at the new H printers, the H series, H2S and H2D. Okay, now they do have their own internal storage. However, there is a USB port on the top for your thumb drives in case you want time lapse. It won't store your time lapse on the memory or the storage of the printer, so you do need a thumb drive. That's not a big deal. That shows a little bit of growth. That's more inchworm growth, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Plus, anyone who does any kind of content, anyone who does, whether you're on Instagram doing photography or you're a YouTuber, Twitch, whatever platforms you like to display your content on. If you do any kind of vlogging, if you do any kind of content, you're used to carrying around storage. I mean, hell, when I use my GoPro for recording, I'm usually doing about maybe 4 or 5 different micro SD cards I carry for different storage. Okay, we did Fan Expo and I recorded a lot there, and I only used up one 256 gigabyte memory card, and I had another one with me, plus two 128s. So I mean, with the right settings, I mean anything's possible. So I only needed to change it like the hour before we left. So there's that. However, anyone who does any kind of content, any kind of photography, you need multiple hard drives. You need multiple micro SD cards or you need thumb drives. You know, I mean, how many times? Maybe you have an office computer, you have a personal laptop. I mean, here I have my personal computer I built. We also have a family laptop that we use. Okay, and also because this particular thumb drive I have has USB Type C, I can take this and I can actually plug it into my phone. I can plug it right into my phone and access storage right there. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. But anyone who makes content knows that you need storage, so I'm perfectly fine with that. Also, something that the A series and the P series never had was a full blown touchscreen. X1C did, and that's negligible. But also, one thing that Bambu does that also Apple's a little bit of the same is there's been a few companies like Big Tree Tech or who have done some pretty amazing upgrades for the Bamboo printers, such as the Panda Touch. Now, I got myself a Panda Touch because I wanted to see what it was all about, see what the functionality was, and I got it on a good deal. But of course, there was the other issue. The other issue. Bamboo Labs has or Bamboo Labs, they have a firmware that if you go past 1.07, if you go to the 1.08 and above, you lose all your functionality that you have on the Panda Touch. You know, it's kind of like, well, hey, the Panda Touch wasn't doing anything bad. It was allowing you to have a touch screen and a not only just a touch screen, but a touch screen that allowed you to network all your printers together, and you could carry it around the house with you. So if you have a room that's a printing farm, you could actually send one file to four printers, whatever, however many printers you have. I think up to 10. So you can send that to all your printers at once, and you can monitor your printers and monitor your AMS and everything on there. It was fantastic. But then, they said, hey, well, we're gonna do this. We're gonna push some updates, and then it was almost as if that device and that technology was locked out, maybe for a reason. Again, that's the kind of stuff we see Apple has done in the past with their cell phones. They've changed functionality so that certain devices are detected and certain ones will not read. Sorry, guys. So I mean, that's something that is it. It makes you kind of rethink things. I mean, I am a fanboy of Bambu. I was interested in the P or the H2S here because of the larger volume size. I was very interested in it. I mean, I was so interested in it, guys, um, that I was seriously, plotting out how to afford it. Checking out the payment plan, Klarna versus PayPal, and I mean, I was dead serious about it. However, it makes me question that there are some other larger printer brands out there. Do I need to switch around? Now, I'm going to pull up some videos here, or not videos, but picture here. I pulled up on Reddit. Let's just hope they don't, yank me about it. So, as you guys can see right here, this is the size of the P1S versus the H2D or the H2S. A massive increase in printer volume. For me, as someone who does some prop work, I don't do professional armors, mind you, but like smaller stuff, Ghostbuster traps, proton packs, things of that nature. I could definitely go with that larger volume. You know, I like the idea of that, and the fact that they even say with the H2S, you can upgrade. I mean, we got our 340 by 320 by 340 from a 256 by 256 by 256. Major increase. It comes with the AMS uh, 2 Pro, which is also a heater, and or sorry, it's a filament dryer as well as an AMS unit. That's amazing. Uh, those of us who've had to take apart our AMS units because of the PTFE tubing that is damaged or clogged lines. Now, when you open up the AMS, you have access to that part right there. That's amazing. You can even add a laser onto this. I mean, it's opening up a world of possibilities. I mean, I want to make diorama pieces. Some people are making actual computer cases. They're making guitars, all kinds of stuff here. So, I mean, I really want to jump on that. However, here's the question: should I? Now, little bit of information, guys. For years, I actually worked for a cable company that did internet, TV, and tel- voice over internet. You know, basically internet phones, and also cell phones. So I worked for them for almost 10 years. And what I used to do, because we would get people who, especially elderly customers who, they have an email but they got a new phone and they needed help to try to configure their email so that it works on their brand new phone, whether it's an Android or an Apple phone. You had your incoming email servers and your outgoing email servers. That's not really an issue with most people having Google email for the most part, or even Outlook, or Microsoft-based email. You have web-based. It's pretty much so simple nowadays. But it used to be where you had to type in server numbers and this. You had to type in this port and select this and select this server and that server. It used to be a bit more complicated. Or if they needed to install the app of that company, so that they can do billing or they can reboot their modems, things of that nature. What I would do is every 2 years, when it was time for me to upgrade a phone, I would flip flop from Android over to Apple. Android, Apple. I would flip flop because I wanted to make sure I was still current on those operating systems. It was just something that I personally did. So here's the question: if this is Apple, do I want to drop? Do I want to jump over to whomever the Android is? Whether that is Prusa, whether that is what is it, any Cubic. Uh, I mean, there's a whole host of amazing printer companies out there. FlashForge. There's all these other companies. Do I want to jump over to Android, uh, the Android systems of 3D printing, or do I want to stay with Apple? That's the real question, and that's the question I want to pose to you guys. What would you do if you found yourself frustrated with with several things that your ecosystem was doing? Would you give up? Would you walk away from all that and go over to a completely other ecosystem, and have your stumbles, have your fumbles, your potential your potential pitfalls, maybe some things that you may not like, but then you might find some things that you really like how they do things. Do you want companies that are going to be a little bit more open source, or do you want to stick with this secure lockdown ecosystem of Bambu Labs? I mean, I've done some amazing printing with Bambu Labs, but it makes me wonder. It makes me question, do I want to stick with them or do I want to go elsewhere? Is Bambu just an Apple? That's the question, guys. And I want to hear your thoughts and comments in the video description below, guys. But, guys, until next time, this is Dave from Dave's Dimension saying, keep on busting. And I'm always going to catch you on the flip side. Take care, guys.